Mark's Demolition Diaries. This is episode 6. It's really my story and bringing you through to the current day. I hope you're enjoying what we've been sharing so far. Very engaging with a lot of people, so thank you for getting involved. I was born in Birmingham in the UK. We lived in a small house in Birmingham. Dave, my father, was working in the family business. When it was bonfire night at school, he would turn up in a Magirus Deutsch lorry full of wood and he'd build a bonfire. Sometimes I'd get dropped off and picked up from school in a low loader, which was pretty cool. Very fortunate to have a big circle of friends. And most of my friends I actually met at primary school. Very fond memories growing up. And my parents put a lot of pressure on me to do well at school, although I think it's fair to say that I'm not an academic. Nonetheless, they put me for exams to go to Bishop Vesey Grammar School, which I was successful in doing. Bishop Vesey, being a grammar school, was a very academic place. And really the only things that I did well at were art, metalwork and woodwork. My life at Vesey didn't last too long. It was quite short-lived, and my parents decided that I would follow in my uncle's footsteps and pack me off to Cotton College, a boarding school that's in Stoke-on-Trent. And I ended up having 3 very happy years there. I probably enjoyed boarding school too much. I left with 1 O-level. Of course, my parents weren't too pleased, and they then decided that it was best for me to go and resit my exams. And I went to St. Philip's College in Birmingham, and thankfully I passed them all. I didn't know what to do, so I decided that I'd get a job locally, and I started working at a local pub. My first job was washing up, and indeed excelled to being one of the best washer-uppers that they had. And one of the days, a chef didn't turn in. They put me on to doing starters, and then I started doing mains and puddings, and then before you know it, the manager at the time, Mrs. Thompson, came to me and she said, "Mark, we're looking at introducing a new shift in the afternoon, and it's for some special clients that we have, and we would like you to look after them." So I said, "Yeah, great." What I didn't realise was that they were going to be ordering things that weren't on the menu, and that's for sea bass. And I'd got no idea even what sea bass was really. And I decided that I was going to cook it on the steak grill. Of course, it all stuck. It was covered in charcoal, being a very delicate fish. I put it on the plate, pieced all the pieces together, flicked all the bits of charcoal out. One of the guys ended up breaking his tooth, which I found kind of amusing, but my boss didn't. So that was the end of my career in hospitality and catering. I then was looking for a new opportunity. I'd always obviously been in and around the family business and had decided, I suppose, at an early age that I wanted to become part of Colemans, but maybe timing wasn't right. Working somewhere else, getting some experience would be a good idea. And I ended up working for a company that I'd never heard of before, but they're a big property developer, Henry Boot Construction in Birmingham. And it was fantastic. I spent 5 years there working for some really top guys. And it really was the grounding for me, gave me that insight and knowledge really as a sort of broad brush to come into Colemans when the time was right, that I could apply that knowledge and that learning to the family business. At Henry Boot, day release, I did my ONC in construction management, then I did a HNC in construction management. The first was at Brooklyn Tech and then at Birmingham Polytechnic. I think it's fair to say that me and my father at that time, he was busy at work, working away. I was busy living up. I'd sort of grown apart a little bit because I was at boarding school. And we were at a family party and we re-engaged and we were talking, and I said that I was looking for a job. And we basically, by mutual agreement, we'll say, because it's always been a long-standing argument between us who asked who, decided that I'll come and work at Colemans, and that was in 1993. I left Henry Boot, started at Colemans, wanted to do my CIOB, Chartered Institute of Building Professional qualification. And Dave and the family said that they would support me doing day release. It was quite ironic because I was now working for a demolition company on a professional construction management degree level course. One of the projects that they'd given us was to knock down a church. So I thought, I'm going to nail this. This is going to be so easy. So I went to my dad, Dave, and I said to him, I said, look, I've got this church to knock down, how would you do it? And he said, well, what I'd do is I'd nibble this bit off here or pull this down with the bucket and da-di-da-di-da. Anyway, I wrote it all out, and I thought, I'm not really quite sure about this. This was pretty much in my first year of being at Colemans. I failed. Oh, it was hilarious. Dave was not impressed. He wanted to speak to the lecturer and everything. He was getting really, really upset. So anyway, I knew then that, Dave's mythologies at that time, we needed to work together to harmonise, shall we say, to bring it together. My involvement with the CIOB has been, still to this day, something that I'm actively involved in. I love the organisation. I'm proud to say that I was the chair for the Midlands region, the Super Hub. I was then asked to come up to the Members Forum and give a talk about mental health, which I did, talking about my own position and history, family experiences, and how they can affect people in the workplace. And indeed, my connections there have led to many people coming through the CIOB and being employed here at Colemans. So I started working in the family firm out of the offices in Stetchford. There were no computers. The only technology that we had was a telefax, and this was like a way that we'd communicate with government agencies, particularly for doing low loader moves. So I bought the first computer, had it delivered to Stetchford. I plugged it all together. I rang my best mate Pete in Chicago, and I said to him, Pete, I've got this computer, what do I do? He says, well, do you know what the mouse is? I said, yeah. He said, well, grab the mouse. He said, you got the arrow? I said, yeah. He said, pull it down to the bottom of the corner of the screen. He said, just click that button. I said, which one? And he said, start. And that was it. And from there then, I had a computer, and I remember when I was doing proposals, I started doing drawings by hand. And then what I started doing was getting Word and drawing buildings with sticks. That was how we first started then developing our method statements all that time ago, to really change just descriptive words, but help really the guys out on site so that they would be able to understand exactly what it was that we wanted to do. And we started concentrating then on building a management structure, brought in expertise from the construction industry, from the demolition industry, that had professional qualifications and that would help support our growth. 8 years later, 2001 was our first blowdown. And it wasn't just our first blowdown, 2 20-storey tower blocks. It was our most significant job that we'd ever secured. It was the partnership with Optima Housing Association in Birmingham to deliver this explosive demolition job. When I look back at it, it was another crazy time. The client had a huge amount of faith and trust in us. But for our first blowdown, we had to manage all the evacuation, all the road closures. It was actually filmed on TV, a program called Blockbusters, so I'd got central TV running around with me in the car. We had the police helicopters, we had our own helicopter filming. Typically, I'd bit off more than I can chew, but I'm glad to say it was a huge success, and really that job was probably the first significant job on my CV as Mark Coleman for Colemans, and really started putting Colemans on the map. We were that busy, we were literally knocking down everything in Birmingham. It was incredible. From there then, we started moving into sensitive, sort of technical type of jobs. But that then allowed us to develop contacts and experience in London. And one of the first significant jobs that we did down there was the Greater London Council offices, voted number 8 on the list of the UK's ugliest buildings. We were working for Galliard Construction. I think they were expecting something different, because I remember Don, who was the chairman or maybe the MD at the time, he turned around to me and said, we're not having any caravans or anything down here. I was thinking, hang on a minute, what do you think we are? So he decided that he was going to come up to our offices, but Don's a very, very busy guy. And he turned up at our offices, he turned around and went back out and rung us and said, Mark, you've got the job. That then started a string of work in London. We had the Bank of Greece, St Mary's Axe, Battersea gas holders, Waterloo train station. We're working on Euston train station. Now over 50% of our turnover is in central London. looking back to see really when I started with one computer to where we are now, to then getting involved globally. Christchurch, New Zealand. I went out there to support and help our friends Nico, John Still and his family. Finland with Kai, another good friend of mine who I met through the EDA. We've worked in Eritrea, we've worked in Jeddah, in Saudi Arabia, in Ireland, and of course all throughout the UK. In this incredible year, our 60th year in business, my 30th anniversary of working at Colemans, I then end up with my son, 4th generation Coleman family member, starting working here as well. So very proud that, I've got 3 fantastic children who are all doing really, really well. And I hope that they will come into the business and take Colemans to the next level, continue our business now and into the future. I'm very proud of the work that we've done in the community, raising significant amounts of money for charity. These are all values that have come from my grandparents, really being part of the community, supporting the community and working within the community. I look back behind me, probably my proudest achievement summed up on one night, the World Demolition Awards 2015, where we won 4 demolition awards that night. They were all for Birmingham New Street, and one of them was the best of the best, which I've mentioned before, and we were voted the best of the best that night. Phenomenal achievements, which we use now to allow companies to look at us and see over these 60 years. We're not the biggest by far, but we are one of the most respected. And again, this is something that I'm immensely proud of. There've been many twists and turns, ups and downs, but that's my life story. I'm really, really proud to be able to share with all you guys. So yeah, really hope that you're enjoying it and looking forward to future episodes.